What's up, guys? Welcome back to X's Nose with Evan and Bros. I'm your most gracious host, Evan. Joining me today through Zoom, Mr. Broderick Olin.
I'm back.
Episode 21, buddy. Episode 21. Tim Duncan, Timmy D.
My man.
The big fundamental. Or fundamental.
He's top 5 all time.
Okay. He's definitely the best power forward of all time.
He's top 5. I will accept no other answer.
That's fair. A lot of respect there. A lot of respect being thrown his way, and rightfully so. So, you just started school, buddy.
Yeah.
Masters, how's it going so far? Tell me about it.
I mean, it's a lot of work so far. That's why I haven't been showing up to many of the shows. Looks like Sundays are going to be my days because Tuesday and Thursdays I'm just packed with work.
Yeah, you're pretty busy. That way we have you on Sundays. Which, if you think about it, that means you get to come on. You get to kind of review your thoughts on the week, if you would like, and also, especially like right now, with playoffs going on. But at least you'll get in to talk about Saturday when college football does begin. Mm-hmm. So you kind of get that benefit. Yes, you get to miss if news drops during the week. And luckily a little juicy trade, which I'm all about trades. I'm all about free agency. I'm all about the offseason. But a little action happened this morning that we'll get to. But yeah, it's going to be a good show. I'm excited.
Wish we could get some more people on.
I know. Me and Elda did it by ourselves for episode 20. I guess 2's the theme for the 20s because it looks like it's just you and me for this one. But hey, let's get the show on the road.
X's and O's with Evan and Bros.
Did you just get that notification?
Yeah.
Okay, it's X's and O's with Evan and Bros. Of course, it's a talk show, man, talking about sports. The one and only Evan Miller, yeah, that's your host, doing analyzing with the side of jokes. Ayy, X's and O's with Evan and Bros. X's and O's with Evan and Bros. X's and O's with Evan and Bros. Ayy, analyzing with the side of jokes.
Alrighty. So Broderick, how do you want to talk about the NFL?
I want to talk about Chadwick Boseman first. Just a quick rest in peace.
Oh, yes. No, rest in power, King. Chadwick Boseman passed away at the age of 43 on the 28th, which was Friday. He passed away Friday night. Mm-hmm. And Chadwick Boseman, I'm wearing my Avengers sweatshirt. Good call because I was going to do this, but I was going to move on. Black Panther somewhere on here. I don't know where he is. There's a lot of silhouettes, and they all look the same. But, famous for Jackie Robinson, number 42.
That's when I first started loving Chadwick Boseman because 42 is one of my favorite all-time sports movies.
Great sports
movie. He
killed
it. And ever since I saw him in that, I've loved him in every role. So when I saw him casted for Black Panther, I lost it because I was like, this is perfect. And he killed it. And it's just so sad to see him go so young. Because 43, it's like you've lived a good portion of your life, but there's still so much for you to accomplish.
No, and he really was just beginning his filmography. Mm-hmm. I think right around 2011, 2012 is when he's really getting started. These actors really don't find their grounding till their early 30s anyway, or late 20s.
It's rare when you see, like, Tom Holland is an exception.
Those are, unless you're a child actor, you really don't break into the business until, and he's a graduate of Howard University, HBC. So I won't be surprised if you see in the next week or so they changed the name because he spoke I'm sure you've seen the video of him speaking at the graduation, either last year or 2 years ago. and they'll probably change their fine arts school to. I would be surprised if they didn't change it to Boseman or something like that.
I'd be very surprised
to honor him. But in this whole thing, there's an interview. And Chadwick is relevant because, especially on a sports show, because he was not very involved in NBA, but he was a fan of the NBA because he showed up to a lot of their events. He participated on their shows, on sports shows, ESPN shows, TNT shows. And then obviously he did the dunk contest with Victor Oladipo, did the Black Panther, which was sick, back in 2018, which was fire. And he did a great interview. I think it was on First Take. And Max was talking about the cultural significance of Black Panther to young African-American kids. And he goes on to say, obviously, that's amazing. That's what he wants. But he's also talking about how great it was to see little white kids. White kids were also dressing up as Black Panther and how important that is too. And he's right. I mean, it's not Black Panther growing up for me was one of my favorite superheroes of all time. And when he was brought to screen in 2016 on Civil War, that was my T'Challa. That was like, he was fierce. He was aggressive. He was like royal. Like it was like he did. My envision of him on screen was brought to justice by Chadwick. And so hearing that he's been battling colon cancer for 4 years and still going on tour, still doing these press releases. And you heard rumors that he might have wanted to move on from the role as T'Challa because he was tired of the role. Not that now to come and realize, I don't think it was because he was tired of the role. It might be because it was killing him because of all the things he had to do.
He had to be in such good shape. And for stage 3 and then developing stage 4 cancer, that's so difficult to do. So there's props to him he would do roles in between Black Panther. So he would bulk up and then he would slim down, then he would bulk up again.
Yeah, no, he was going. And I never took much into this because I just thought it was Chadwick being a very slender guy.
Mm-hmm.
So and he's not a tall dude either. He's actually kind of a smaller guy. So I never really you see him stand, I think it's in Infinity War where he's wearing the new costume. He looks really thin, right? Real slender, real thin. Which if you look at him in Civil War, where that was, I guess, pre-diagnosis because they would have filmed it in like 2015, around there. Mm-hmm. And he was diagnosed in 2016. He was a lot thicker. He was a bigger dude for sure in Civil War. So I always thought it was weird that and obviously I didn't, actors' bodies change and things just like everybody's bodies change. So I never really took much into the way he looked in Infinity War compared to his prior appearances. And so then I was just fine with it. But now finding out, that he's been battling cancer, it's just, the dude's a real life superhero.
Yeah.
And, I've had, and people know, how I am about the MCU, and that I was going to actually drop a little, I think we're going to, I was going to announce the arrival of Geekdom Kingdom coming fairly soon. But that's my whole other world. So it's like, my heart breaks, for the Boseman family. We lost him way too soon.
Way too soon.
And, he'll be missed, but he leaves a legacy. And I've been watching, did you see his family's post, the announcement of his passing? Is the most liked tweet of all time.
Powerful.
So, he left for, I can't stress this enough. It's not like if Denzel Washington passes away, everybody will be obviously just as sad, right? I'm not trying to say people wouldn't be sad for Denzel, but Denzel has had a 40-plus year career, right? Something like that. Or Samuel Jackson, 40-year plus career. The film, there's some number that Samuel Jackson's appeared in filmography is like ridiculous. Chadwick's credits are not that big.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
I mean, even in that short time, he's played some iconic roles.
Oh, yes, he has. Yeah, but that's the legacy that he's leaving in such a short period of time. Like
right.
it just would have been like his best years were ahead of him. Yeah. After he hung up the Black Panther cowl and all that, like after he would have been done with the role, like his probably the stories that he wanted to tell were so much bigger than than a fictional character, even though that character became real life for a lot of things like that, and it just would have been, oh my God, it's amazing to see the impact that he left on society. Just by bringing a character that wasn't, yes, he brought Jackie Robinson and Get On Up.
James
Brown.
Media's been messing with my head. I see. Yeah, James Brown.
And Thurgood Marshall.
Mm-hmm.
To Life. 3 important, Black figures in our history, and he did an amazing job. I recommend all those films. The one that he's going to be remembered for was a fictional character, but felt more real to, children, to adults, and it was a cultural phenomenon that, I think brought our at least our generation a lot closer, and so he will be, rest in power, Chadwick. Let's take you want to do a moment of silence?
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I had to look up who James Charles was. I was like,
is that a person?
I was like, why the hell did I say James Charles? And I was so wrong.
Oh wait, that's the that's
he's
the Twitter guy.
It says American internet personality.
Yeah,
I don't know how I butchered that bad. Could you please edit that out or something?
All right, let's take a moment of silence, Broderick.
I meant James Brown. Moment of silence.
All right. Moment of silence is pass. Clifford Robertson also passed away.
Yeah. Too many people passed.
Too many. It's been a weird. It's we can't stress it that 2020 has sucked so bad.
Mm-hmm.
But let's talk about sports. Let's talk about the NFL because we have some fun news that I always love reporting. Ngakoue, defensive end for the Jags, has been traded to the Minnesota Vikings for a second-round pick, an unconditional 2022 fifth-round pick. So there was rumors, I think it was either last week or 2 weeks. Well, there's been rumors for this whole offseason that Ngakoue was going to get traded. He has been unhappy in Jacksonville. He does not want to be – he's a good player. He does not want to be part of this rebuild. He does not want to be part of this sucky organization.
You really hate the Jaguars.
I don't hate the Jaguars. I shit on the Jaguars because I feel like they have in my lifetime, they have always sucked. I think the last time they made the postseason was back in like 2007, 2008, somewhere around there.
What are you talking? They almost went to the Super Bowl a few years ago.
Oh, with Saxonville.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
Dude, they were leading in that game.
Yeah,
they
in
were
New England.
A possession away
in New
from
England. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. They have that year they're relevant, but then how do you go from being? I think they were a double-digit win team, right? With Jalen Ramsey, what?
Mm-hmm.
I think, and then they literally ship everybody out and suck
because they had Blake Bortles at quarterback. That you had a low-tier quarterback. Yeah, you're not going to be consistent with a low-tier quarterback.
All right. So Ngakoue signs the franchise tender at 13, right under 13 mil. Let's go win. All right, is it a win-lose for both teams? I want to hear your thoughts. Win-lose for Minnesota. Is there a loser, winner? What we got? Who won?
Well, Everson Griffin left, right?
Everson Griffin's gone.
Yeah, so they needed a replacement. So I guess
I would argue that Everson Griffin, yes, was a captain, has been a stalwart in that defensive, front for a long time. You could argue this was when Minnesota has recently, Zimmer, I could contribute to him probably. They have found ways to replace guys after either retirees, older guys have moved on. Griffith is pretty old. So, he and his production had dropped. So, his production was not worth his contract or what they wanted to pay him. So they have Delaney Hunter, who I am in love with. The dude is a monster. If there's anybody physically gifted like him, he is how you build a football player in a Madden type game. The dude stands like 6'4", probably around 240, but he's like as chiseled as a Greek statue. The dude is a monster. Mm-hmm. So you got him on one end, you add Ngakoue, but I think the reason why Minnesota makes this trade is because they lost Michael Pierce to the ACL injury. You lose Michael Pierce, a defensive tackle. You have to add depth. Obviously, Ngakoue is going to play the other end, bookend, but this allows you to fluctuate some pieces inside.
Move some people around.
Yeah, you can play. You can play with your puzzle pieces. Keep going. Sorry.
Yeah, and then so Minnesota, they're really trying to contend. They're below that Super Bowl. They're in that playoff caliber, but they were just in the. They're not quite in that true Super Bowl contender like stratosphere. They're playoff contender, but not in that next. Like the San Francisco, the Seattles, and like those teams in the NFC. I would expect Minnesota to make the playoffs, but they're still that.
It's funny.
What?
All right, you put just why you say that? It's because of Kirk Cousins. You put Russell Wilson on this Minnesota Vikings team.
Yeah, because
what happens?
Russell Wilson's a top 5 quarterback. You could say that with any other.
But I don't think Seattle's roster is as good as Minnesota's.
Yeah, but I don't want that to be a knock on Kirk Cousins because I think he's better than people.
I agree. I don't think he can't. He's what's keeping them though from being. Because they have that star running back. They have a defense that can win you a Super Bowl. They have receivers. Yes, they shipped off Diggs, but they still have Thielen, and they added Justin Jefferson. Now, we don't know if Jefferson's going to be good. He could suck. Because they have drafted.
But they found a replacement.
But they found a replacement. They went. It's not like they just went and didn't replace him. They did with the first-round pick. Mm-hmm. Continue.
And it's just, maybe it's Kirk Cousins. I mean, I could still see Kirk Cousins on a Super Bowl roster, but it's just, they're just short. I'm not saying they can't win a Super Bowl this year, but it's just they're just not there. And I feel so bad for Kirk Cousins because I want him to get the credit he deserves because I do. People always say he sucks and stuff, but he's been on either like 500 or winning teams most of his career. So,
well, I think the reason why people argue he sucks is because there's that stat where if they're playing teams that are below 500, he has like a great record, right? What, like 80% win percentage or something stupid. But teams that have above 500 or above 500, he has like a losing record. He's like 3 and.
But there's also like stats where Aaron Rodgers hasn't had a fourth quarter comeback or like game-winning drive on a winning team. Or it was some weird stat like that. So I think people can mess around with stats to make
to paint their narrative. Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
People do that all the time.
Yeah.
So I don't look too much into those weird stats just because I'm a marketing major. Or well, I guess in undergrad I was. So like I'm used to like learning about numbers how stats and other like graphs and that those sort of stuff can be geared and skewed to shift your perception.
Yeah.
And like you see all the time in politics, and you see it now with not to make this like a political, there's just an example, like with all the COVID deaths or percent of population, both sides of the media will create graphs or use data that will skew perception.
Everybody does it
their favor. So I feel like NFL does that too, and NFL is like the worst at it, just with quarterbacks and stuff. So you could see a stat that might make you think like, oh, like Bortles is the greatest quarterback all time, or Tom Brady's terrible. Like you're not going to avoid that. So, I mean, I like the trade for Minnesota. Hopefully they can get to that Super Bowl contention, that caliber. And I really like for the Jaguars too, because they have like 4 top 50 picks or something next year.
Well, it's like they have 4 in the first 50, something like that. But you can argue the Minnesota pick's probably going to be a late round pick, most likely, just because Minnesota has been competitive.
Yeah,
and I do see them finishing in front of the Bears. I tell you what, that NFC North is so tough every year because the Lions, there was 10 games where they lost by a touchdown or they held the lead going into the fourth.
I think here's another one of my stats I'm talking about. If the Lions end the game, I think with 10 minutes left in the fourth, they're 10-6.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Which is, and people think, oh, they were terrible.
No,
but
they had it.
Like they were in almost all those games. 10-6 is a very good record.
Well, Lions always finish 10-6 so if they're in the playoffs. Haven't you noticed that? Like they have to ship Stafford out of there. I don't even know if Stafford wants to leave. But anyway, going back on this. So Minnesota Vikings. So if you're the Jags, did you think it was a smart move to get Ngakoue out of there?
Yeah, I mean, if you're rebuilding, there's no reason to be keeping star players.
Do you think Leonard Fournette's next?
Yeah, because I think by the time these draft picks hit and they start to get into their prime or be very productive, Fournette will be kind of waning. So I think you need to trade him for value now. I mean, if somehow they're competitive, then keep them, but I don't see them being too competitive.
You could see maybe him and Gardner Minshew have something. Maybe because the trade deadline obviously is until week 8, so he can hold on to Leonard Fournette. Maybe somebody suffers an injury at the running back position on these contender spots, and then you make a trade, you make a move. One of these teams maybe need a running back. Maybe Tampa Bay. Maybe somebody loses. You keep them in Florida. You could send them off. Yeah, but I think it's pretty clear that the Jags are trying to set up for a Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields scenario, and it's pretty clear. I mean, if it's not obvious, then. And I tell you what, if you think about it, this is the year to tank because you're not banking on ticket sales this year. Any team isn't because obviously of COVID reasons. So if you don't want to put a quality product on the field, this is the time to do it. You're
not going to suffer from it.
You're not going to suffer from it. Exactly. So,
and even if they do reduce attendance, all the diehard fans are still going to get, like, I know UGA is doing, I know it's college, so it's different, but they're doing, I think, 25% capacity.
Yeah.
You can fill the stadium, that 25% with diehard fans and get your, I guess, money's worth from that. So.
Yeah. So I tell you what, it's just, all right. So real quick on this, I'm just going to throw this at you. So Minnesota, right? The Vikings now have, this is reported by Field Yates. He tweeted this. The Vikings now have an elite duo on all 3 levels of their defense. Pass rusher, Delaney Hunter, Ngakoue. I can't say his first name.
Yannick.
Say it.
Yannick
Ngakoue. Linebackers, Eric Kendricks, Anthony Barr. Safety, Harrison Smith, Anthony Harris. Defense loaded with playmakers.
That defense can carry them.
It could. It's one of those. It's kind of like it. Well, it's been like that for years since Zimmer has been there. They just have to get the problem with them. It's like one year they're like, let's air it out, right? And then next year it's like, no, run the ball. Next year they're like, air it out, bro. Just find balance. pound it, hit that play action. It's not hard. Get Thielen on a go route, over the top, burn. All right.
I hope so, because Thielen's on my fantasy team.
Hey, I got you. Speaking of fantasy team, be on the lookout. The X's and O's with Evan and Bros cast is doing a fantasy live draft. And, well, I guess it won't be live, but we're doing a fantasy draft special. And we're going to do one where all the boys are going to get together. We're going to film it. We're going to tape it. And we're going to put it out for y'all. Broderick's going to keep up with the standings and numbers on the website, right?
Mm-hmm. I need to talk to Jack about the website. I know
you're good. We got some time.
He's got some, yeah.
So we're going to get that all together for y'all. And then hopefully it's going to be competitive. And we'll see how that goes. But, yeah, so that will be out shortly. And then so that's going to be a lot of fun. But for right now, we're going to take a quick break. And we'll be right back with X and O's with Evan and Bros. Be right back, y'all.
Hey, guys. Take this moment to like and subscribe. And also follow us on the Instagram and Twitter at Curbside Entertainment and at Curbside Network, respectively. You can also find us on Spreaker, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to X's and O's with Evan and Bros. I'm your most gracious host, Evan. Joining me through Zoom, Mr. Broderick Olin. What's up, buddy?
As I said earlier, I meant James Brown. I'm still upset I said James Charles.
Yeah.
I meant James Brown.
Can we just say James Charles and James Brown, two completely different human
Very
beings?
different people. I was thinking James Brown, and I accidentally said James Charles.
That's okay. All right. Let's talk a little NBA. Oh, I'm a little insulted. I know we talk a lot of the NBA just because that's the better college football's coming around. We'll talk about college football. Actually, we had a game last night. And then, so when that starts coming around and when NFL starts, we'll be talking about those sports as well. I'm just not a big baseball guy, guys. It's not my, it's just the way I'm made. And baseball's not, there's no fans. There's nothing really going exciting there. So I'm sorry. Okay. I'm sorry. All right. Moving on.
I'll talk baseball with you podcast listeners. Just reach out to me.
Yeah, just reach out. Just email him, text him. He's single. All right, so we're going to move on. Let's talk about NBA. The NBA resumed after, I don't call it a boycott, I call it a strike. Because boycott is when the consumers are boycotting your product. Technically, your workers can't boycott their product. It's a strike. Does that make sense?
I mean, I don't know the technicalities behind it, but I guess they made some change with the owner, so I'm happy.
Well, no, that's why you strike. That's why to make change within your company or within your own. Boycotts when, like, if you and me were upset with them doing something, the consumer boycotts the product. If they're doing like the actual term. So the NBA players striked over a day and a half. And it looks like it worked, or it looks like they got a pledge from the owners to not just the report is they wanted more action versus reaction. Mm-hmm. And so it looks like they got what they wanted. MJ sounded like MJ was the mediator between the players and the owners, which I love to see because he's the GOAT. And it's good to see him being active and things like that because he's, a fairly quiet dude. So I like to see him be vocal and, because I feel like when especially watching The Last Dance and things like that, when he speaks, I love hearing him talk. So kind of like LeBron. When LeBron speaks, I love hearing LeBron articulate. So when MJ speaks, I love hearing him articulate his reasonings and things like that. Because I think he's a savage too. So I just love hearing him speak. Because you never know if his next sentence is to insult somebody. But so play resumed. Milwaukee Bucks versus Orlando. Game 6.
Game 5.
Game 5. Thank you. I want to say game 5, but I went game 6 for some reason. Milwaukee closed it out. 4 out of 1. So Milwaukee Bucks won 118 to 104.
We were off by a game. We both said Bucks and 4.
So we flipped these. We thought, so you know how we had Brooklyn winning 1 and Bucks sweeping? We had it flipped. So Toronto swept and Orlando won 1. Vucevic won 1 for the Orlando. We thought it was going to be LeVert.
All of mine, I did the max of 5 games. I think there were 2 where you said in 6.
I had 76ers pushing them to 6, and then
because unless I'm 100% confident, then I'll say in 5. Like with the Celtics, I was like maybe Sixers will get them 1, and with the Raptors, I was like maybe the Nets can give them 1. But I really wanted to say Celtics and Raptors in 4, but with the way the Nets were playing going into because they gave Portland a run for their money and they were beating some of these top teams. And then with the Sixers because you never know, Embiid could have gone off for 50 or 60 one of the games and gotten them a win. None of that happened, but I mean, we still guessed all these right. It's just I was a little more right.
Yeah. Okay. If you have to say that, then sure.
To all the listeners, Evan talks so much trash in the group chat. After the first game, he was like, "Host is never wrong, never wrong." I said Lakers in 5, and he said Blazers in 7. But after the Blazers won that first game, he's like, "Host is never wrong, not once. I'm always right." And then I was like, "All right, just wait." And then who ended up being right? Lakers in 5.
Whatever. Okay. Listen, there were bold picks. I feel like Chuck out there. I'm just trying to, I'm just doing it for the clicks. But we'll get to that. We'll get to that later.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
So
Eastern Conference right now.
Giannis is, doing his best Superman impression. He's trying to wheel these Bucks into the finals. I don't know if you saw, I think episode 19. But Grant has the Toronto Raptors in the finals.
Not a bad. I think winner of Raptors Celtics will probably go to the finals because I'm leaning towards Heat against the Bucks.
Interesting. He is too.
I'm not like full sending it, but I need to do a little more thinking. But I'm leaning more towards Miami, just because they sweeped a better team and they looked good. And a lot of times Jimmy Butler wasn't either, like a lot of their runs came when Jimmy Butler was on the bench or when he was hurt, and the role players stepping up. And like you saw last night, or I guess yesterday or during the day, when Giannis was out, that offense looked lost. Middleton hasn't played up to his caliber, and the Magic made a run when Giannis got 5 fouls and was out at the beginning of the 4th quarter. They were down 14, and then they cut it to 3.
Yeah. No, I mean, I tell you what, this Magic team was much like the Pacers team, riddled with injuries.
Mm-hmm.
So I tell you, kudos to them for really, fighting. I think Vucevic, really, because there isn't a lot going on, really got some national recognition, got his name said more than it usually is.
Mm-hmm.
Or would have been. So I'm happy for him. He played his ass off, averaged nearly 30 points. The dude, a stretch big. He needs to teach Anthony Davis how to shoot. So kudos to the Magic. I'm happy for them. Hopefully they can run it back with some healthy guys next year, and maybe put up more of or make some trades. I'm in the camp just because the Magic are much like these Pacers teams where you got to do something fun and different and weird. Trade Vucevic out. Send him to a contender where he doesn't have to waste his prime of his career because he's entering it, and put him on a team where he can just light it up, and be, maybe Houston. I don't know.
Houston doesn't like anyone over 6'7".
I know. But so Orlando did good, but not good enough. Bucks beat them in 5. So good for the Bucks. Bucks are moving on. All right, let's us move on. All right. We got Houston 114-80. Why does it feel like these games are either blowouts or like
The blowouts are really close.
or really close? So when Houston wins, it's like blowouts, right? But when OKC wins, it's close and it's overtimes. But yet it seems like OKC is always in control when they win. It's not like it's just because they're close because Houston can hit the three.
Because Houston just, I've said this before, and I don't know if I said it on the show, but I've definitely said it like in our group chat. It's when you're hitting threes, you can beat any team in the NBA. And just with the Rockets are built, they're three or nothing. They don't like mid-range shots. They spread the floor so they drive and kick. If they're hitting their threes, they can beat any team. And last night, they were hitting their threes. And it needs to be more than James Harden. Everyone needs to be hitting their threes, and they were. And when you look at the games where they've won, they're hitting threes, and the games that they've lost, they're missing.
So this is the first time I think I've ever seen the Rockets go. They almost emptied their bench. The only person that did not play was Tyson Chandler.
No, didn't he go in for a free throw?
He went in for a free throw.
Because like the double technical.
Yeah, he did.
Which killed the Thunder because Dennis Schroeder was one of the only ones that was creating offense for him.
Well, let's just say a lot of things obviously had to kill the Thunder because they lost by like 30.
Because they were down 3 at halftime, and then they just couldn't get a bucket in the second half.
Which is crazy because and maybe it's because D'Antoni did decide to use his bench. Maybe there's a lot of it's just weird because again, this series 1 minute I'm like, oh, James Harden needs help. James Harden can't do it by himself. I tell you what, I think those 2 days off was the best thing for James Harden. And obviously he was able to get Russell Westbrook back because I was talking about that on episode 20 because he gets an extra ball handler. Yes, Russell did not shoot the ball good. He never does. But it allows James Harden to take possession off. So he doesn't have to go all out on defense like he has been. If you don't think James Harden's a good defender, get out of my listeners. I don't want you here. I need you here actually, so stay. But James Harden was a magician yesterday. I think he missed 4 shots.
Yeah, he was, even with Dort doing his absolute best to guard him, he was still hitting these tough shots.
Who said that Dort was the best defender in this series or on the court right now?
The best defender on both sides of the court.
Yeah, who said that?
I think that was a Grant. It sounds like a very Grant comment.
But he was announcer said that though in the game, like Grant was like making fun of it.
I don't know what announcer said it, but
yeah.
Yo, Dort's 1 jump shot away from being the best 3-and-D in the league. He's got half of it down.
No. What do you think about this series? It's what we expected. It's competitive. It's what a 4 and 5 should be. But
when it comes down to it, the games the Thunder have lost, it's when they don't get their big 3 going, which I mean Schroeder, SGA, and Chris Paul. When you look at the first game, Shea struggled and Schroeder struggled. The second game, Paul struggled. But when you look at games 3 and 4, those 3 were really creating and making the game easier. And same with Gallinari. When Gallinari is hitting his shots, that's I hate to say it, but a very good 4th option in Gallinari. Yeah. And
if he's able to, Chris Paul, all 3 of them really, Chris Paul are real slashes, right? Yes, they can shoot the 3, but they're slashers. They like to get to the hole. But if
Chris Paul loves that mid-range jump shot.
If they can get to the hole and then bounce it out to Gallinari to hit that jump shot, hit the 3, they're cooking.
Opens up the floor for him a whole lot.
It does.
But last night, Schroeder was the only one that was really cooking. I mean, Chris Paul got going later, but it was too little too late, and he was the only one. Losing Schroeder really hurt them last night, and I don't want to say that's the reason they lost, because I think the way Houston played in the second half that they were going to lose that game either way, unless Gallinari and Shea turned it on. But Those four have to be creating. Well, Gallinari doesn't have to be creating, but Chris Paul, SGA, and Schroeder have to get going and hit these open shooters.
So Shea obviously is going to be he's an all-star in the making, but it's still in the making.
Yeah,
you know,
his playoff inexperience is showing. He's had flashes, but he hasn't been consistent throughout this series.
But isn't that crazy though? Just the difference between like him and Luka, like it's just like it's just crazy that playoff inexperience. Luka hasn't been to playoffs first time. Shea first time.
Luka's otherworldly talent.
It's just but that's just the discrepancy between the two. It's just I don't think we really appreciate what Luka's is or what he's doing. It's crazy.
Yeah, he's playing great. I mean, I think Clippers still win that series, but
I think Clippers close it out tonight.
Yeah,
sadly, I think Clippers. What you said? You said Clippers in 6. I said
Clippers in 6. So I'm
and
fingers crossed.
You can check the show. I picked Mavs in 6, but obviously I was like, Clippers are going to win. You can check the tape.
You keep on doing that.
I said it. I said it in the show. I can't help what I said.
But you can't play this side where it's like, oh, I thought the other team was going to win.
I picked the Clippers to win it all. So
you can't be doing this. You can't be.
I'm just saying I did.
You can't choose Mavericks and then say, oh, but I meant like Clippers. Hey, you got to stick with your pick.
Broderick,
you said Mavs. You got to. I said Thunder.
Watch the tape. Watch the tape.
I'm not disagreeing with it.
I said I think the Clippers are going to win, but I want the Mavs to win, so I picked Mavs in 6.
Yeah, so when you're talking your trash, you got to expect some trash talk back.
That's fine.
When your pick doesn't hit.
That's fine. I'm a man. I'm wearing an Avengers shirt. I can take it. I got these boys with me, riding with me, so it's fine.
But then you play like, oh, but the Clippers were going to win, and I knew it.
I did know it, though.
If you knew they were going to win, you should have picked them.
I did know it.
You should have picked them then.
I didn't want them to win, though. Especially now. All right, real quick, talking about the Houston Rockets. Was that a dirty shot by Dennis Schroeder? Nut shot to Tucker?
I actually didn't. I wasn't watching it at that point, and I haven't gone back and seen it. So I'll go back and watch and give you a final answer.
Look it up real quick right now. You'll be able to find it easily. So I'll explain what's happening. So Tucker's setting a pick like he usually does. I forgot for who, probably for James Harden, but he's setting a screen, and Schroeder's guarding the ball handler, and Schroeder's coming over the top of the screen, like a lot of players do. But Schroeder gets really low, and his arm is kind of out of place. It's kind of a weird thing because it's almost like a swim move if you watch football. But he brings it out wide and goes, I'm talking clear under Tucker, and just swings his arm up and hits him right in the junk. I don't know how that's not on purpose. Now, maybe you're going full speed and you're trying to go over the top and you're getting so low and your arm now they have a lot of control over their body, more control than I do. And so I don't know how you hit him there. Now,
yeah, I'm watching it right now.
I'm a pretty big PJ Tucker critic, but he did not deserve this. Schroeder got all arm up in his in the crotch area, and so I don't know if it is dirty. I think if anybody else, if a player like if Marcus Morris did it, people for sure calling it a dirty play right away. So
yeah,
and I think Schroeder looks like a really nice guy and has never been a dirty player in my eyes. So I can't imagine that he would do this on purpose. That's why it's hard for me to believe it. But again, it just looks so hard to not be like, this is such a dirty play. What-
I'm waiting for like a slowed down because they're showing it, but they're not showing.
yeah, this-
because it's hard to see intent unless it's slowed down. Because there's certain angles where they show. I'm like, oh, Schroeder was just running, but then like there's one where it looks like he's doing like a little upswing,
right?
you said.
Like straight uppercut with the whole
Mhm.
arm. It's just weird because I don't know. It's it was a weird play. Luckily, Tucker's okay, but God, I don't know if he has kids, but he might want to think about having them now.
Oh, here's a slow down.
Thoughts, reaction?
Good thing he was setting a proper screen where he was covering his
Yeah, right.
his
Yeah,
downstairs.
What's your thoughts?
I don't know. Like you said, like I haven't known Schroeder to be like a dirty player, like some of the other players in the league. So I mean, it didn't seem too bad, but that last slow down one
Right.
seemed as if there was some intent. Maybe he thought about it and then couldn't back out.
Yeah, he's
last
already.
second.
He was
Like maybe he was committing to it and then was like, wait, no, I shouldn't. So then but-
he let his arm go a little limp and just.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. But we'll move on. We'll move on from that game to the last game of the night. Trailblazers Lakers. Damian Lillard is out of this game. He is in Portland now.
like the rest of their team.
He just got a head start. And I was wrong. I can admit when I'm wrong. I bought the hype after game one, especially. I already picked, before game one happened, I already picked the Portland Trailblazers to win this game in 7. And they got outed in 5. Thank you for giving me one game, Portland. That's all I wanted. But I think after game one, AD and LeBron had a heart-to-heart because after that, they have been on a mission.
KCP also woke up.
KCP, when they say bullying has harmful effects, that is not true. Bullying can have positivity, clearly. KCP and Danny Green were both bullied into learning how to shoot. I don't condone bullying. Don't bully. But
Caruso's also played great.
Caruso has been, I don't like to give him credit, but his intensity, his hustle, his defense, he gives them really good minutes. Is he a consistent starter in the NBA? Probably not. But does he play his ass off? Yes. So yeah, this game, Lakers won 131 to 122. It was tied at halftime. It was tied 68 all. So CJ played fine. Carmelo, I was getting this update. This is a classic Melo game, and I feel like every time Melo scores double digits, everybody's like, Melo's awake.
Classic Melo.
Classic Melo, yeah. So I'm kind of, and I love Melo, and I'm sick and tired of it. Every time the dude scores more than 10, everybody freaks out.
It was like D Wade, like this is vintage D Wade.
Yes, it's exactly, yeah. And D Wade would have like 10, 3 and 2, and I'm like, oh my god,
vintage Wade.
So I hope Melo is on Portland next year. I saw a thing that he's praying to return to Portland. I think he fits that culture nicely. He fits what Dame wants to do there. It'll be interesting to see if CJ's there next year. I think this Portland team has a chance to look very different next year.
I think we both have said trade CJ.
Yeah.
Not that he's a good player, but it's clear that it hasn't worked out.
Nope. Trade him to the Lakers.
I don't want to say work out as in the sense where they haven't been able
good
to play together. They've been great together, but it's if you're not. It's kind of like the Lowry and DeRozan situation where they've meshed, they work well together, but you're not going to win a championship with those two, so you got to trade one.
Well, I mean, look at OKC the last 4 years, really. When they had Russell and Victor, they traded Victor away. Obviously, they got Paul George in return, but I mean, Russell Westbrook won his MVP with Victor Oladipo there. And then Paul George came in town. They traded Paul George and then look, they were still the fifth seed. And they traded Russell, and they still were the fifth seed. So obviously, he got Chris Paul, and he got Shea, a really good young player. But obviously, OKC is a quality organization. But I think Portland's a quality organization. They've seemed to be competitive even after trading LaMarcus or Marcus leaving in free agency. But they seem to be able to put teams together that are competitive. So I say trade them, get rid of them.
And they've just got so much money lined up to where any trade that they do has to involve CJ, just because they're owing $65 million, which is a large percentage of the cap, just between Dame and CJ. So even if you just trade CJ and get a bunch of 3-and-Ds, that could be better, could not. I mean, you'd still need a second score. Maybe Zach Collins can develop. Maybe Melo can get back to his old self, which, I mean, I still think he's good for a good 15, but I don't think Melo will be another 20-point per game scorer. Hopefully Nurkic stay healthy, but I mean, I'm still a big proponent of trading for signing a good 3-and-D in free agency, and then, or maybe a veteran one that can come in and help out, and then trading for a power forward. You say Kevin Love, I say Blake Griffin. I think we're both in agreement they need some front court scoring.
Well, I also think that Nurkic needs to be way more aggressive. Whether he needs to demand the ball more, because his low post scoring is really good. He's talented, he knows what to do, his footwork's good, but he needs to be more aggressive. He's not. So that's why you need to get, I think, if you have Dame, if you have Nurkic, and then you go get another guy, like you said, a 3-and-D guy, or some guy who's not a high volume shooter, but who can still handle the ball to get it out of Dame's hands once or twice. I don't know who that guy is. I agree. I think because if Nurkic isn't going to be aggressive enough to score, you have to get another front court player. I mean, how do you feel about maybe CJ in a Cleveland uniform? I think the contracts line up.
I would love it just because CJ.
But how many guards would you have? You have 6 guards.
Yeah, and then we making if we get CJ, I think we have to trade Sexton, because I do want to keep Garland, because I think he's a pretty pure point guard, and I look at his first NBA season as kind of his college season, because he was at Vanderbilt and he only played 3 or 4 games and then got hurt. So I look at his first year in the NBA as kind of a college and growing year. So I'll make more judgments on him this upcoming year. But I saw some great flashes of him running the point, and our offense just looked a lot more controlled this year. Garland was running point as opposed to Sexton, and dude, Garland's got some handles. I don't know if you see some of his workouts and some of his in-game stuff, but the dude will be lethal if he can unlock that next step, and be aggressive, and just once the game starts to slow down for him, which happens to certain players at certain times. We see Luka, it's slowed down for him immediately, and then we see other people like Oladipo who take years to develop, but they still reach that level. I think Garland will take a couple of years, but if you roll out a Garland, CJ, Kevin Porter Jr., Obi Toppin, Andre Drummond.
Hold on. I just saw of a trade that might benefit some people.
Let's hear it.
And I think the contracts line up. What if you trade Tobias Harris, your 76ers, for CJ?
Yeah, I've seen this going around.
Is this a thing that's been going around?
I mean, I've seen it just tossed around, not by anyone, any announcers or stuff like that, or any analysts, but I've seen it kind of NBA Twitter.
Yeah.
I do think the contracts line up. I think you still need to. I mean, I've been a big
I feel like
proponent
that's
of trading Ben Simmons.
I feel like I think at this point they're not doing it. I think they fired Brett Brown. I think they're giving at least one more year for sure.
I think you have to, and I love Ben Simmons. I think he's a great player, but him and Embiid just do not work together. Embiid needs 4 3-point shooters around him. He needs to get to the paint. One-on-one, he's going to dominate almost any center. And then if they drop for double teams, open shooters, it just works. We've seen it work with the Bucks. We've seen it work with Orlando, Dwight Howard. Just the 1 in, 4 out. Just surround him with shooters and just get him a point guard who can get him the ball and who can also give him just 20. Because if Embiid's the primary scorer and just has a point or a wing that can give him 20, which could be CJ, it could work. But Ben Simmons has to go. That's just my opinion.
We will continue this conversation. We'll be right back with X's and O's with Evan and Bros. We'll be right back, y'all.
Hey guys, take this moment to like and subscribe, and also follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Curbside Entertainment and Curbside Network, respectively. You can also find us on Spreaker, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify.
Welcome back, everybody, to X's and O's with Evan and Bros. I'm your most gracious host, Evan. Joining me through Zoom, Mr. Broderick Olin. All right. Yeah, so you were talking. You like Ben Simmons.
I like him. I'm a big fan.
You trade him.
Not a Philly. So I think Ben Simmons needs to go. I think it'll work for Embiid. It'll work for Simmons. I think they're both trying to be number one options there, and it's just the court's too clogged on a half-court offense. It just doesn't work. I think it'll be so much better for Embiid if he has a point guard or shooting guard that can give him 20, that can play off ball, and that can just feed him in the post, and then surround him with shooters. You can keep Tobias Harris. I mean, he has to play better in the playoffs, but
I don't know. Tobias has kind of been garbage.
he needs to step it up, but he's got some size. He can shoot. He can someone who can create offense to save Embiid's off the floor. Whatever guard you get, I don't know. Maybe you could somehow get Bradley Beal or someone of that kind of caliber. I don't know how stuff would work out, but maybe.
Oh, it'd be crazy. I don't know if he can. I really don't know if he can. What if you just did a two-star swap? You send Ben Simmons and Tobias Harris to the Wizards for John Wall and Bradley Beal.
I think contracts would work out. Just we don't know what we're getting with Wall.
I know. That's what, but you don't know with Ben. Ben's injured.
I know, but he hasn't torn anything. Right? What was his injury? It wasn't a torn Achilles, which I think John Wall had.
Oh yeah, it's not an Achilles. No. It's like something in his knee.
And torn Achilles is a lot more worrisome than I forgot what Ben had, but it's
and it's been reported that Porzingis has a torn meniscus.
Yeah, I don't want to say it's not scary the fact that it's a torn meniscus. It's scary the fact that Porzingis has suffered a lot of injuries.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, the Mavs have a max contract spot coming up.
They do. You need Porzingis to be healthy to convince somebody from Greece to come join Luka.
Yeah, like 2 years ago, I saw someone predicting Giannis to Dallas, and I wasn't like no way, but I was like, I mean, it's unlikely. And now, like year by year, I'm like, Giannis might be going to Dallas.
It's either and then I told you about the Victor thing, right?
The Victor to Dallas?
Yeah.
I don't think I've heard this.
I think think about it. It makes sense, right? You get Mark Cuban, who's an IU alum. You have Victor Oladipo, IU alum. And you get, you have a max spot. You get a ball handler to take it off Luka's hands, but you get a third quality scorer. Victor doesn't have to put up 25. He just has to put up around 18 to 20 points, which he can easily do.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and he gets to be the primary defender.
You've got some people that can score the ball in Dallas.
I know. I'm telling you.
Porzingis, Luka, and say they get Oladipo. Hardaway can still get you
cheaper
buckets.
contract though, because his contract would be up. That's why they will have room for a max. They'll have to, maybe if they keep and convince him to take around 10 mil versus that 20 that he's getting paid right now.
Just like, yo, we want you here, but just take a little pay cut.
Take a little less.
And then Seth Curry is still played great.
He's going to demand more though. Seth would demand more.
He's going to demand more. So hopefully
maybe around 10.
Keep it a little low. Keep it a little low.
Yeah.
Like Seth, we want to win a championship here.
I don't know how you would be. I've always thought about this. If you were, and we'll talk about today's picks, but if you were in the NBA or any league, would you sacrifice money to try to compete? Because obviously,
do I have endorsements?
Say you do have. I guess Seth doesn't really have the endorsements that all these other players do. Say you were the type of player that Seth is. Would you go get your money? Say it is the difference between it's 8 million versus 13.
I'll do 8 million with a championship contender.
You would?
Yeah, but if I'm getting offered like 15 million, I might have to snag the 15 mil. But if it's
a 5 mil,
if it's 12 or 13, I'm probably sticking with my championship contender. Because you do get paid some more money from going to playoffs, and then plus you get more name recognition, which could lead to endorsements and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I think there are benefits to taking less money and having that more name recognition than, say, just getting 13 mil and going and playing in Charlotte, and people won't really know who you are, or not. Casual fans won't know who you are.
Is that a shot at Terry Rozier?
No. It's not, but it's just when you play in those low market teams, those casual, like probably almost every person who say they watch the NBA or know stuff about the NBA probably know who Alex Caruso is.
Mm-hmm. Just because he's on the Lakers, right?
Yeah, I would say more people know who Alex Caruso is than Devontae Graham. Just because Devontae plays in Charlotte.
That's fair. That's fair.
You see what I'm saying? Sometimes that name recognition does more for you than having that extra money.
That's true. All right. Well, let's move. I got today's games ahead of you. You know what they are?
I think it starts with the Raptors Celtics, which I'm so excited for.
It does. So we got Raptors Celtics.
Mm-hmm.
God, I can't believe that series starts now. That's incredible. So you wanna pick who? Do we want to pick? Wait,
like the series?
Since this is round 2, let's do the first 2 games since this is still round 1, and then we'll wait. All right, so then let's start with Clippers Mavs this evening. I love today's games. I really do. Today's games
really
are great. We got Clippers Mavs at 3:30. Clippers are favored 10. Luka's a one-man freaking army at this point. They do got shooters, they got scorers, but it's not. I hate it, and I do hate it, but it's not going to be enough. I have Clippers winning today in 6.
Yeah, I mean, I picked Clippers in 6
a
week and a half ago, so I'm sticking with it.
And they will.
Clippers in 6. They close it out. Kawhi's been playing great.
Kawhi is the untalked about superstar for some reason in this entire playoff. He has been playing out of his mind, even though his running mate has just woken up. I feel for him. I love Kawhi. I actually am a huge Kawhi fan, so I respect him, and he will probably get 30 tonight, just like he has been this entire playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
All right, this is actually very interesting because we both picked the Nuggets to win this series because we didn't think the Jazz could score, but the Jazz have been playing out of their mind.
Yeah, where'd this come from?
Me and
you were both like
they looked dead in the water in the bubble, like they couldn't score.
See, I'm gonna stop saying stuff on the show because whenever we say stuff, either on the show or in the group chat, they always switch it on. I was like, Donovan Mitchell needs to switch it on. He needs to develop his playmaking abilities like Devin Booker did. And what did he do? He switched it on, and he's been playing.
Well, I think
the best basketball of his life.
Mike Conley coming back has helped a lot. Because it's given them an extra ball handler. It hasn't been Donovan Mitchell hasn't had to.
Out of nowhere, Mike Conley's like, "Oh wait, I feel comfortable in this offense."
And he's shooting. He's making 20, and I don't know where this guy's been.
Literally all these players, where have they been? Where?
So we both had Nuggets. Nuggets, I was thinking that Jazz were going to knock them out. But Nuggets came back. Jamal Murray has been superhuman. Come back. Do you think, and I'll go first, so you don't have to. Jazz are still up 3-2. I actually think the Nuggets will win today. I think the break helped them. I think the Jazz were on fire. I think the break helped them. I'm going Nuggets win today. But, and we're going to talk about who wins the series, who closes it out. In 7, I'm going Donovan Mitchell wins Game 7 for the Jazz. So I think Nuggets win today, but I'm going Jazz win Game 7.
I'm going Nuggets. I stick with my picks. I picked the Nuggets to win the series.
Such a bitch.
Even though it's not in 5. I mean, no matter what, we're both going to tie on this series because we both said Denver in 5.
Yeah.
But I'm sticking with my pick. I don't jump ship. when I make a pick, I stick with it. And
whatever.
Jamal Murray, he heard your girl can come through if you make it to the second round. And he's like, oh really?
He's going to see her no matter what. He's either going to get her to come here or he's going to go see her personally.
He still wants to play.
Do you think so I think prior to the series, if people would have been like, I'll take Shea over Jamal. Jamal's a little older. He's been in the league just a little longer, just a little bit. Would you take Jamal over Shea?
Right now, no.
Really? You still take Shea over Jamal?
No, I'm taking Jamal.
Oh, okay.
You said, would you take Shea over Jamal?
I did say that? Okay.
Yeah. At least I think you did. We can run it. We'll check when we run it back.
Yeah, we'll check. Okay.
But I mean, Jamal Murray's been playing out of his mind. We were talking about he needed to take the next step. I think he's starting to do that.
It's just so hard to be an all-star in the West, man.
Mm-hmm.
It's so hard because he probably would deserve it. You know, if he was in the East or any other, he'd probably considered one of the top point guards in the conference. But how do you compete with guys? You know, I don't know. It's tough.
When Booker's barely making the all-star team.
I know.
That's why I don't know why these guys aren't going out east. Like, why not? Do you not want to play there? Like, do you not like these cities? Like, is that it? Or so we even see people in the East go out west. Like, why?
Yeah, Paul
why?
George.
You're just making it more difficult on yourself on your playoff run.
Yeah. Well, Kevin Durant went over back to the East, so hopefully that kind of levels it out.
But I just feel like there's just so much more in the West. So guys, come East. I mean, the top 4 in the East. Well, I guess if you count Miami as that 4, even though they were technically the 5 seed.
Yeah.
That top 4 in the East is very good, but then it kind of drops off. I mean, Pacers, they're injury riddled. Sixers have a lot of work they need to do, but 7 and below, it's so much different than the West 7 and below.
Yeah. All right. First game of round 2. We have Celtics Raptors. I know Grant picked he thinks Raptors pretty much could win it all. He's high on them. I like the Celtics team. I would like more if Gordon Hayward was available. This is tough, dude. This is tough.
It's tough.
This could go 7. Oh my God. Raptors are the deeper team. They have the chemistry, but the Celtics team has been together for a while. They have the chemistry. Obviously, Kemba's new, but they still have a lot of guys that have been on this roster.
Both these teams have playoff experience.
I mean,
Raptors, I guess, maybe. Well, Raptors have championship experience.
I like the guy. I like Tatum. I like Brown. I like Van Vliet. I like Pascal.
I think these games.
I like Nick Nurse. I like Brad Stevens.
I think this game or series will come down, or like individual games / series will come down to last couple minutes. Who can get you? I say this all the time, but who can get you a bucket? And when you look at the Celtics, you've got Tatum, you've got Brown, you got Walker.
Walker's been looking really good, bro.
He looks really good too.
They've been kind of holding him back in the bubble. Mm-hmm. He woke up for this series. He'd been given. Brad knew what he was doing. Mm-hmm. Everybody was like, "Why is Kemba looking a little? He hasn't been playing a lot. Is he okay?" Brad was saving him.
Brad knew what he was doing.
But
and then back to my point, Raptors. Can they score when it comes down to last like 3, 4, 5 minutes? Because Van Fleet has shown Game 6 Van Fleet, he was dangerous. He killed the Warriors, but he also had Kawhi there. Kawhi took a lot of heat off of him.
He did.
So if these Raptors can get it done in the last few minutes of the game, I would be siding with the Raptors, but I don't know that. So given that knowledge, I'm going Celtics in 7.
I like both these teams.
I do love that. I think winner of this series
wins it all.
A legitimate shot to make it to the finals.
Well, they only have one more game to go before they make it to the finals. So
but like, there's been so many years in the East where it's just, you make it and then you have no chance because it's LeBron in the Eastern Conference Finals. You know what I mean?
This year it's
more open.
It's a better conference now that LeBron's gone.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but it's funny, but because how competitive the West is, it's still to me wide open in the West. I think LeBron James and Anthony Davis are the best duo in the West, but it's still, to me, I still think the Clippers have a really good chance. I still think, I think if Houston, I think AD is going to have 100 against Houston, but I think they still have a chance just because of the way they play, you know? And I don't count James Harden out. I really don't. James Harden's the top 5 player in the league. You don't count him out. But we're talking about, I get sidetracked. We're talking about Celtics, Raptors. You're right. You still got Brown, Kemba. I think Kemba's the X factor to me, actually. I think he's huge because I think Van Fleet's going to have to go tick for tat with Kemba. But then you have Jaylen Brown going for 20, and then you have Tatum, who quite possibly could average 30 in this series. But OG is going to have to step up on defensively. Is OG going to guard Jaylen, or is OG going to guard Tatum? Because he can't guard both.
And just the thing that I like about the matchup between the Celtics and Raptors.
But who guards Ibaka off the bench? Robert?
No, I mean, if they were able to figure out Embiid and be able to work around Embiid, I don't think they'll have a problem with the Raptors.
That's true. That's a good point.
But the Celtics have bigger guards, which I think will be a problem for the Raptors. It's not as much just the
longer
front court
bigger
depth,
and longer,
and like it's more just the backcourt. They're stronger, they're bigger, and I think they'll be a good job guarding the Raptors and giving them problems on the defensive end. Which we'll see how Lowry, Van Fleet, and OG adjust to that. Because when you watch the Celtics and Raptors play throughout the regular season, the Celtics guards give the Raptors guards problems. A lot of problems. Without Hayward, it'll be more difficult, but I feel so good about the Celtics team. I also feel really good about the Raptors team, but I've just been praising the Celtics since the start of this podcast, so I have to.
You've been high on the Celtics this entire time.
I have to.
All right, I'm joining you.
Ooh.
I'm joining you. I'm going Celtics, and I do think this does go 7. I do think it's that close. I think it could go either way. I think Tatum and Brown have been in the playoffs. Tate is 3 years now. Tatum 3 years. Jaylen 4 years now. So they have that playoff experience. They have come up big in the playoffs the past few years. But this time they have it together. Like they're the guys this time. It's not because of default, it's not because they have to be. It's because they are. And then adding a guy like Kemba, who's been dying for this moment. Did you see that stat before? He's he has the most points scored with. He's the longest player. He's the most points scored without winning a playoff series.
Mm-hmm.
But now he obviously has that playoff series.
Yeah.
So
he has more wins with the Celtics, like this playoff run, than he did all with Charlotte. I think.
So I'm happy for Kemba. I think he's one of the most underappreciated players, maybe in NBA history, for what he did with Charlotte, and then hopefully he does with Celtics. Could you imagine if he did go to the Knicks, because that was like really close to happening?
I'm so glad he's with the Celtics.
So glad he's with the Celtics.
It just works. But I mean, I'm still so. The Raptors are really good. I don't know how much I trust Lowry in clutch situations still.
No, Lowry's old and fat and short. So I'm going.
Wow. He's still a very good player. I think he's a very underappreciated player. I think he's a Hall of Fame player too.
I think he's in a Raptors ring of Hall of Fame.
I think he's Hall of Fame.
All right.
I think that ring put him up there.
That's fair.
I mean, because you look at the All-Star appearances, you look at the numbers. I think he'll get there. I don't think it's set in stone yet. I just think he'll get there.
Okay. But yeah, all right. So that's today's games. Me and Broderick both have Celtics in 7. That series starts today at 1 p.m. Followed by Celtics and Mavs, and then Nuggets and Jazz. So that is today's episode of X's and O's with Evan and Bros. Again, rest in power, Chadwick Boseman, Clifford Robinson,
Lou Olson too.
Lou Olson. We
Lute.
Lute.
Mm-hmm.
Lou Olson. Rest in power. Let's throw Broderick. You know what I'm talking about? A little Wakanda forever. A little Wakanda forever action. He was not just a hero to African Americans. He was also, I think, powerful for white individuals as well.
Mm-hmm.
So he left a legacy that I don't think is going to be forgotten. And also, fuck Screen Rant for releasing that article. Literally like a couple hours.
You saved your F-bomb.
I saved it to the end. So yeah, screw y'all for releasing that article hours after his passing. Yeah, scumbags. So thank you guys for being with us today, and it was a fun episode 21. Let's Trey Money take us out. Hope you all had a great weekend. We're going to have a great week. Playoff basketball. College football around the corner. Sports are back.
Work to do.
Yes, we do. Peace.